There are varied opinions on alienation all over the world, but I have experienced it firsthand myself. And I know many people who have experienced it too. Some who are still stuck in the horror of it all. And I even know people who otherwise seem like average people who have turned into vicious alienators themselves. So I want you to know that it's real. And I will continue to have the conversations that need to be had about this for as long as it is necessary. Doesn't matter how uncomfortable they are. Okay. We've had cats and dogs on the podcast also. They're all welcome. Sorry, he's very old. So today I have invited Ema Cassins to share her story with us and tell us what she has learned and what she's doing about alienation. Ema, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation to be here with you. Hello, everyone who is watching this video today. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and it's a great opportunity for me to share my own story with parental alienation and to share with you a little bit of my personal story. I didn't know what parental alienation was before, so I will try to stick to my own story from my childhood and then to the point that I am now. As I said, I didn't know what parental alienation was, and I believe I was alienated as a child. My parents divorced when I was about 6 or 7 years old. They had a very traumatizing and violent divorce. They would get physical sometimes. My dad was a functional alcoholic. My mom was controlling, and she had lots of mood swings. So it was a difficult combination between them as a married couple. After their divorce, I think my mom became a bit more controlling with me, and she had a deep need to be right all the time. And things just got difficult between her and my dad because she didn't respect much of my dad's boundary. My dad wasn't there for me and my brother, or maybe he wasn't there for my mom, and she felt like he needed to be there still, even after the separation. So it was a bit chaotic, and as a child, I didn't understand what was going on. And I felt like I had to be loyal to my mom. I had to be on her side. So I had to take and pick a side. And I choose her side. But it was hard for me because I couldn't see my dad anytime I pleased. And sometimes my dad wouldn't visit me. And I didn't understand that. But I also couldn't ask my mom because she would get aggressive towards me. So she was a bit controlling the visits, and she was controlling when and how we would see my dad. Any pick up and drop off, she would be aggressive towards him, and he would be aggressive towards her, verbally, sometimes physically. They would have those encounters. And for me, it was really traumatizing as a child, growing up with that and not knowing what was happening. And I want to highlight that because domestic violence sometimes is assumed that the man is aggressive and the woman is the one who suffers the domestic violence. But I think in some cases, it comes from both sides. It comes from both people. I've seen in my family and with close friends in their relationships how the women can show themselves to be provocative. They can be unstable. And they can be also, what's the word I'm looking for? They can be out of control sometimes and just jump onto the man just because they want to show that they can control, they have the power.
Yes.
So I just wanted to touch base on that because I think domestic violence happens to both men and women, as well as parental alienation. So going back to the alienation experience, I don't remember spending much time with my dad. And that's hard for me to say. I don't have happy memories or sad memories. I have those violent scenes in my head. traumas, but I don't remember the connection between my dad. And I think that bond was broken when I was little, unfortunately. A few years ago, when I decided to talk to my dad about my traumas and how I felt about him, because I felt unloved, I felt rejected, you know, and that reflected in my adulthood and my relationships. And I built up the courage to talk to my dad about it. And I asked him, Dad, why you avoided me when I was a child? And he said, well, I didn't avoid you. I avoided your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, in a way, it was good to hear that, because I understood that my dad loved me, and he wasn't pushing me away, but he
Yeah.
pushed me away unintentionally when decided to avoid my mom.
Mm.
So it didn't, I mean, it was good for me to hear that, but at the same time, it didn't change much of how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
But I clarified that question that I had, because I always thought that my dad was rejecting me.
Yes.
Uh, so then it was good to hear that from him, and I mean, it had an impact in my life anyway. I can't
Mm.
go back and then just have that claim that
Mm.
time back.
Mm.
I can't go back and say, Dad, can you spend time with me, because I'm not a little one anymore. So, you know, that
Yes.
there's always that feeling of I missed that time with my dad, and
Mm.
I can't claim that back. So I think what was happening with my mom, she was an active alienator, but she wasn't uh, aware of what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if at any point in her life she realized it. I think I tried to talk to her a little bit recently, but uh, the mentality is that, like, I didn't do anything wrong. You know,
Mm.
that's me. I am your
Oh,
mother. I did what was best for you.
yes.
So to accept that as an abuse, as an emotional and psychological manipulation is really hard, because you
Mm.
are seeing your child and you want what's the best for them, but you don't see that you're projecting yourself in them
Mm.
or on them. So I
Mm.
think what my mom did was project her bad experience with my dad on me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that her words, when she badmouthed my dad to me, like, I think her words stuck with me for a long time,
Mm.
and it left deep marks on me as a person, as a girl. And I grew up with that. My teenage years were not easy because of that. It nurtured in me a sense of insecurity,
Mm.
and I rejected my dad internally. I
Mm.
completely detached from my dad. Whatever he said to me when I was a teenager didn't have any relevance. I didn't believe him. I didn't trust him. I was a very difficult teenager, according to my dad and to my mom. But I think that was the reflection of having both parents being aggressive,
Mm.
alienating me. Because my dad alienated me from my mom a little bit, I would say, by bad mouthing and telling me things about her that I shouldn't be involved in. I shouldn't be listening to those things as a
Yes.
child.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, I think what my mom did, this manipulation of emotions and feelings,
Mm.
intentionally or not, was um, abusive, I would say.
Mm.
Um, and it hurts to say that, because I know um, she loves me, and she didn't do that to. One second, because I get really emotional.
It's fine.
I love my mom, and I think she never had the intention to hurt me.
Mm.
And I forgave her for that, and I love her. But I wish she was aware of what she was doing. I wish she had someone to tell her, look, this is wrong, don't do that.
Mm.
But she didn't. And that's okay. I moved on, I grew up. But I felt like this had an impact in my life. I'm checking my notes because I don't want to miss any points. So yeah, as a child, I took on the responsibility of um, making my mom happy, taking her side. I wanted to fix her and fix her broken marriage. I wanted to see her as the good person, as a good person that she was to me, but I couldn't when I was a teenager. So later on in life, as an adult doing therapy, I deconstructed the image that she made of my dad in my head, and I
Mm.
deconstructed the image that my dad made of her in my head. So
Mm.
in doing that, it was very good for me because I could come up to my own idea of who my parents were. And I forgave them for doing that to me. I forgave the alienation, and I could revisit myself in my divorce, and see that for my own surprise, I was a naive alienator for a while as well. Um, so yeah, and I'll go back to that in a minute. But yeah, there is this tinted image of my dad and my mom all the time. So it's a process that I have to be kind of deconstructing their image all the time in my head to be able to move on with life and just like accept that my past happened and I can't change it. But what I can do now is change myself and hopefully share my story with other people, and then we can change things together for the
Yeah.
best.
Emma, I'm so
Um,
glad that you mentioned that, because I work with trauma all the time, and sometimes it's a very difficult lesson for people to learn that we have a childhood and things happened that harmed us and hurt us. But when at some point as adults, we need to take responsibility for who we are and who we become. And we have to do the work, like you mentioned, we have to deconstruct the images that our parents created. We have to, heal our own wounds. That's our own responsibility when we become adults, so that we can move forward and hopefully have a better relationship of our own and better relationships with our parents. So yes, very valuable, and I'd love for you to maybe tell us a bit about that, how how you deconstructed and what the impact is. But it's important for whoever watches this video to realize the tremendous impact it has on children. And again, when you realize at one point that alienation is the thing that's been going on, that in itself has a far-reaching effect and impact on us as well. And we can talk about that as well.
Totally. Yes, I agree with you. It's so important for us as human beings to be always revisiting the past and seeing our actions and reflecting on them as well, because we need to grow up. We need
Yes.
to get out of that comfort zone and just become better people. I think that's my goal in
Mm,
life, and I believe that should be everybody else's goal. So
mm,
yeah, by revisiting the past and reflecting in my traumatic events. It wasn't easy. I don't think I could have done it myself or by myself.
mm,
I had the help of my lovely therapist and some very close friends that I could talk to, and uh, and I think what happened is that I could make peace with with myself as a child,
mm-hmm,
and understand that it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my responsibility, and it wasn't
mm.
in my control to change my
Yes.
parents or to
Yeah.
change their behavior.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, and I want to move on now to talk about my divorce and
mm-hmm,
my alienating behaviors.
mm-hmm,
I had a marriage of 11 years, and I have to make this story a bit short. Basically, I wanted to control visits. I wanted to control my kids' routine with their dad. I
mm-hmm,
wanted to feel like I knew them better than he did.
mm-hmm,
In my marriage, I was for so long silenced and I couldn't do what I wanted. I couldn't be who I wanted to be. So, for that little moment after the separation, I thought, there we go. That's my chance. I have control. I have the
mm-hmm,
power, and I can manipulate the children and him. Of course,
mm-hmm.
this wasn't conscious. I wasn't
Yes.
thinking like that, but it felt like it. That's
Mm-hmm,
that's what I want to raise awareness to, that people
mm-hmm,
need to be watching themselves and the signs, because the signs
mm-hmm.
are there and we have to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the therapy process and also revisiting my childhood, I could associate that I've seen this behavior before,
Mm,
and I was repeating the pattern of my mom
Mm.
and my dad
Mhm.
unintentionally.
Mm.
So uh, for me to realize that, it was shocking. I was upset with myself, and I just realized that I did some sort of alienation when I became aware of what alienation was, what parental alienation was.
Mm.
And I just became aware of that because I'm being alienated now as a stepmom.
Mm.
And I want our conversation to go on to that. And I have a lot to talk about. So I will leave that for
Mhm.
towards the end of our conversation. Uh, yeah, so my divorce was full of resentment, disagreements, lots of pain for everybody. I waited until my children were a bit older because I wanted to protect them from all these traumas that I've been through. So
Mm.
uh, I waited. Basically, that was the point for me to divorce. I had to
Mhm.
be financially stable, and I had to wait for my kids to be older.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, that feeling of, oh, I know my children better than you do. I know what they need. You don't have to come today because they're busy. I've planned a day out with them. That type of thing. I felt in control, and that felt good. I
Mm.
felt like I was the woman in control of my life and my children. And that was
Mm.
wrong. That was wrong, not because of me, but because of everybody. It was wrong for the children. It was wrong for their dad because it's our children. I didn't make
Mm.
them by myself.
Mhm.
And I think that's the point of communication that I wanted to discuss here today. How an effective communication can be the solution and the key to stop alienation,
Mhm.
how it can help us realize the truth.
Mm.
Because if we are not honest, if we are not communicating things properly, then there are misunderstandings that need to be addressed. And if they're not addressed, the problem will just escalate.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I realized that uh, it wasn't just my kids. That was my starting point. He is
Mm.
also the dad. They are
Mhm.
50% me, 50% him. He cares about them as much as I do.
Mm.
So it was annoying for me to come to realize that. It was painful because, that was me giving up something that I wanted so much, that control, that feeling like, oh, I have the power now.
Mm.
And I want people watching this to be honest with themselves and do this reflection. And it's not easy, it's painful, especially when it involves parenting issues. I think it's really
Mm.
hard for
Mhm.
us because we want what's best for our kids and we truly believe that. But unconsciously, are we putting them in the center? Are we
Yeah.
talking about the child, or are we talking about ourselves? Because I think
Mm.
that is a big problem,
Mhm.
um, Sinta. I think what we lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we say like, oh no, because of my child, I will do this. Oh no, she can't do this today because I've planned this day. Well, but that was the day that the dad should be with the child. So why are
Mm.
you making plans on that day? We have to stop lying to ourselves and let the other
Yeah.
parent be the parent.
Mm.
So yeah,
The
we
thing
have to
is in
separate.
Yeah, sorry. The thing
Mhm.
in a separation and a divorce is that we are overwhelmed with emotions, and there's often anger and resentment and all kinds of unresolved issues, and that clouds our judgment. If we are not very aware of our actions and willing to look in the mirror and evaluate what we're doing, we can do horrible things.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
I agree with you. And I think as well, Cinta, uh well, separations are chaotic. You're
Mm.
coming from a place where you loved someone once and you were with that person, or you were with that person for any reason. And then all of a sudden, your world change and you separate. You are going
Yeah.
to the extremes. Like you're here, the other person is there. So there is a chaos going on
Mm.
between the two of you. And the children are in the middle of that
Yeah.
chaos. So we
Mm.
have to try and clear that chaos by
Mm.
bringing some sort of uh, fact or a
Yeah.
resolution that is based in facts. So
Yes.
for me, what I learned from looking back to my divorce and my actions and how I was feeling and acting was I picked on the point that I started separating the person, the context. I
Mm-hmm.
started separating the situations in my head. And I saw that the man that I was married to was the dad to my children. The marriage ended, their relationship will never end.
Yeah.
So I had to put myself out of that place of,
Mm.
okay, he's the dad, I'm the mom, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore I control them.
Mm.
No, he's the dad, I'm the mom. We have children and we are parents.
Together. We'll parent together.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can't be friends. I have to be honest with you. I came from a toxic, abusive relationship, but he was
Mm.
abusive towards me,
Mm.
not towards the kids. I
I
had to
wonder.
separate that in my head
Mm-hmm.
in the context of my marriage was toxic and I didn't want the kids to be in that environment.
Yeah.
One of the
Mm.
reasons why I separated. But he wasn't bad with the kids.
Mm.
And I had to be honest with myself and say, yes, he's okay as a dad.
Mm.
I don't agree sometimes with his parenting style. I think he's a bit pushy sometimes, but that's his problem with his
Mm.
kids.
Mm.
They're growing up, they will be able to come up with their own conclusions. They will see their dad for who he is. I don't have to tell them what I think of him.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the one manipulating their views and thoughts. And every time they talk to me about their dad, I give my opinion. I had to stop
Mm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to them actively and make small comments, but
Yeah.
nothing that would be in detriment of their relationship with their
Mm.
dad.
Mm.
Nothing that would tint their dad as a bad guy, as an abusive man,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a time in life when it comes that I can talk to them if they want to know about why I
Yeah.
divorced their dad. But there
Mm.
is the right time, not when they were little.
Not, yeah, there will come a time when it's age appropriate to discuss that.
And if they
Because
want
it's a
to,
question, if yeah, if they want to. But the question that I get so often is what ties to what you said. He was abusive to me, but he was not abusive to the children. I think many people fear that that abuse will continue with the children, or the
absolutely.
abusive behavior will be transferred to the children. And sometimes I've seen myself how the abuser in a relationship or the abusive parent might not be abusive to the children when they're young, but as they grow older and they start behaving like their mother, for example, they start exhibiting characteristics of the mother, then those children start receiving the same kind of abuse. It's a very difficult situation. It's very challenging to get to the point where you can believe and be comfortable with my children are safe there. This person who abused me emotionally will not abuse them because there's no guarantee.
No, I agree. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. But on that note, I would say it's important to actively listen to your kids because they
Mm.
come home. Okay, they live with me most of the time. They see
Mm.
their dad on the weekends. So they
Mhm.
come to you talking a lot of things that they did with dad. They talk about
Mm.
how the dad is, what he's doing. Okay, I have to watch their body language. I have to
Mm.
watch what they are really saying. Are they
Mm.
scared of the dad? Are they
Mm.
showing some signs of that I should be concerned? But the
Mm.
problem with that, Sinta, I think, is that the other parent, sometimes the alienating parent, I would say, they distort that.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
manipulate it in a way to make the other parent seem like abusive
Or dangerous.
or
Yeah.
or aggressive, so
Mm.
they project themselves and their relationship.
Mm.
Like if the dad says or do anything, they
Mm.
will say like, oh, you see, that's how he is, that's who he is.
Mm.
But
Mm.
that's up to the child to come to that conclusion. As long as, well, we have to be careful with that assumption because, of course, if there is a real danger of
Yeah.
sexually being abused or being beaten up,
Mm.
then there is a real thing
Yeah.
happening, and we need to act on that. But most cases, most parents, from all the research that I've been reading, that's not the case. It's a
Yeah.
loving parent, it's a caring parent, a safe parent who is not perfect. We have to be honest that nobody's perfect. And the alienating parent comes from a position where they are perfect. Oh no, I
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. I am the right one. No,
Mm.
I dictate the routine. I dictate when they come to see you. I know what's best for them. That's the wrong approach.
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem. When you assume that the other one can't do anything wrong because you're going to pick on that and be like, you
Yeah.
see? And then when we communicate that to the child, that's the worst thing we can do, because then we start constructing that monster image in the child's
Yes.
head.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I can give an example that wasn't even in my notes, but just came to my mind. Yeah, it's very personal, but I think I feel like I have to say it here. When I got pregnant, my ex became really upset and aggressive, and he threatened me. He said, if I see you crossing the road, I will run over you and I'll kill you and your baby. So of course I don't want my children to be with that man.
Yes.
A man who's capable of telling me that he's going to kill me.
Yeah.
A man who is the father of my children.
Sure.
I was petrified. I thought he was going to kill me. I really thought he was going to kill me. What I did, I went home, I communicated that to my partner. I said, look, my ex-husband has said this and this and this. He supported me. He said, don't worry, I'm with you. Anytime you feel threatened, call me and I'll be there for you. Would you like to go to the police? I said, yes, I do. I went to the police. I reported that. And that was it. I went back home and I said, kids, if your dad sends you a weird text message talking about anything that is with regards to me or to my pregnancy, just let me know. And they said, okay, mom. My daughters were, let me try and remember, I think they were about 11 and 12, 13. So, I could have told them many things like, oh, your dad said this and that, and he's going to kill me, and I don't want you with that man. What for?
Yeah.
What
It probably
for?
just frighten them.
It would frighten them. It would traumatize them. It would escalate the problem, and in the end, it was just resentment. He threatened me. Yes. It was real. Yes. But he didn't do it. And I don't think deep down that he would do it. Yeah. So, I think we have to talk to the right people. We have to communicate with the right people. We have to let others know how we feel about something. But we have to be careful about our children. What do we want them to know and why?
Yeah, that's very true, because often also in a breakup, parents feel, I think you mentioned it earlier about your mom also, sometimes parents feel this deep need to be right, to be found, to be the good person so that the other person can be the villain or the bad guy in the story and the reason for the breakup. So parents often overshare information with their children in an attempt to get the children to take sides, or even if not take sides, to just, affirm to them that they are good people and that they are popular and that they are loved and cared for. And then, they feel like they have the upper hand over the other person. And that can be very, very harmful as well. So there's a lot that
Yeah.
children don't need to know.
Yes. It maybe comes from I don't know, it's just my guess, but it maybe comes from the need to compensate the loss of the marriage, because you're losing something. You're in that grief state. And then you need to compensate. So you want to feel loved by your kids. You want to feel special. You want to be heard. And then your kids are there. So they are the easiest people to be close to you and
Yeah.
validating you and your feelings. So
Yeah.
then you open your heart and you share with them. And I did that when I separated. That was
Mm.
part of my alienating behavior.
Mm.
I was naive. I didn't know anything about parental alienation. I never came across the terminology before. So
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted was that I wanted my kids to be with me, to be on my
Oh.
side, to be, like almost like feeling sorry for me because
Mm.
I separated, because life was hard, because I was going to be a single mom. And
Mm.
I didn't want to lose them to their dad. That was what
Yeah.
was happening in my
Mm-hmm.
head. It's
Mm.
almost like you're losing your child to the other parent, and that's
Yes.
not true.
That's not what's
But
actually happening, but it feels like that, eh?
it feels like it. And I think most of the alienation problems would be solved if we went straight to the point and stopped with the lies and just got to the facts of the situation. We are not going to lose our child. We are
Mm.
not going to be surrendering any power or control. It's
Mm.
not a game, but we do that. We behave like that.
Yeah,
we
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 do.
we become the victims, and I think there's a tendency for moms to be on that side. I'm not saying that it's a mom or dad thing, because it is gender neutral and there are lots of
Mm.
dads out there alienating mothers,
Yes.
uh, but there is a tendency of moms to be in that victim state.
Mm-hmm.
But if you realize that soon enough, then you don't cause any harm, any deeper damage, emotional damage to your children.
Mm.
And I was glad that because I was doing therapy, I could get out of that place fast
Mm.
enough to not harm my children even more. And
Yeah.
important thing was I was talking to my children about the separation. I think that was so, so important.
Mm-hmm.
Communicating with them, not
Mm.
about the separation itself, like the reasons of the divorce, or
Mm.
but just checking on them. How are you feeling that
Mm.
we are living in the house by ourselves now? Do you miss your
Yeah.
dad? Do you want to see
Mm.
him today?
Mm-hmm.
That was important for me to be prioritizing them
Yeah.
and their feeling, because
Mm.
we are so hurt. It's our divorce, it's our separation. Then you see like that castle that you were building, on top of the sand, just going
Mm.
downhill. And then so then we become the victims, but we forget the little ones. So it's important to focus on them and
Mm.
hear them and listen to them and see what they're showing you. And they have that deep need to be heard as well, and they're
I
usually
do. Yeah.
forgotten by the parents because the parents are too busy arguing
Yeah.
and disputing.
And the thing is also that the parents are adults and much more equipped to deal with the impact of the separation, whereas children
Yeah.
don't have the tools and the skills or the maturity that we have. And they actually bear the brunt of it if you think about it. Their whole lives are turned upside down. There's so many changes that they have to deal with that it's very
Mm-hmm.
important. And this actually reiterates to me the fact, it's something that I always recommend with my clients and anybody I know that go through a separation, is to get parental guidance from day one. There's so
Yeah.
much that has to change in the way you parent your children when you're going through a separation. And if you haven't done this before, we don't know. There's no manual for it, but it's getting proper parental guidance in terms of how to navigate that, how to parent specifically so that you support and protect your children is very, very important.
It is. It
Mm.
is. And yeah, I think how not just how you guide them, but what you're showing to them. They watch
Yes.
us, they watch our behavior.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if you say one thing because you've learned from somewhere, because you saw somewhere, but your body language, because your behavior is
Mhm.
showing something else, they will absorb probably
They will,
your
yes.
behavior and
Yeah.
what you're showing. So it's a matter of becoming aware of our actions, becoming
Mm.
aware of what we are saying, our place in their lives.
Mm.
That's really important as well, because they have so many people in their lives, and we are a parental figure. So we are not their friends in the sense that we can open our heart and share with them everything that we
Mm.
want.
Mm.
We have to be in our place as parents, but not abusing our power in the way of manipulating their emotions and feelings. So yeah, I would say it's a very important place to be as a parent. And it's so important that you said, it's just so important that we go maybe relearn how to parent during separation. It is essential. And yeah, so I think be clear with our kids, with ourselves, and with the ex-partner. So for me, I'm going to repeat, I had the child with someone who is also a parental figure, and he has the same rights as I have. I have to be honest with myself, be honest with my ex-partner, and become honest with the kids. So he was abusive towards me, but not towards the kids. The problem that I had in my marriage don't belong to my kids. And
Yes.
I can't transfer my bad experience or project them onto my kids with the excuse of saving them from the bad guy or the monster.
Yeah.
Because if there is no fact, it didn't happen, and it might not even happen. And finally, be respectful with the children as well as the ex-partners. So in that note, I would say, don't make your children pick a side, choose which parent is the best one.
Yeah.
Don't make them feel sorry or guilty by anything. And try to remove yourself from the relationship that they have with the other parent, if possible.
Yes,
If
that's
they're
very
old enough and they have their phone, let them
mm,
make the contact, let them make the arrangement. If they live with you, let them be free. Mom, I'm going tomorrow to see my dad. Is that okay? If I have no arrangements for them, why not? If they're
yeah.
not going to meet at school, let them be free. They're human beings. They have needs. If they feel like seeing the other parent, let them do so. Don't try and control. I think that's so important to just let them be kids of the other parents as well. And they
Yes.
will always come back. They will be back and forth because they love both parents, and they have to feel safe enough to do that sort of transition between households, between families.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I had the experience of being a naive, alienating parent for a short time. Thank God. It wasn't long enough to cause any harm. I had the experience as a child, as my mom was active, alienating me, and my dad was also in that dynamic as an alienator. And then as a stepmom now, I am dealing with an obsessed alienator.
Sure.
And that is difficult. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
It is a challenge. I don't wish it to anybody. If I could summarize, I would say this is one of the most difficult times of my life. Um, and that's when I became aware of parental alienation as a terminology, as a behavior, as an abuse. So I started my new relationship in 2021. I became the stepmom of the child. I'm not going to mention her name here, of course. She was 5 years old. We had a loving, caring, and honest, genuine relationship. I loved her as if she was mine. I love children. I work in education. I'm always surrounded by children. Me and my partner, between us, we have 7. So,
Yeah.
you know, I love them, and I loved that child as if she was mine.
Mm.
And when her mom had narcissistic traits. Before I arrived in my partner's life, there was problems happening, but it escalated when I got pregnant.
Mm.
So when I got pregnant, the mom showed some sort of, I don't know if I could say it, like insecurity, jealousy, and she started sending emails and text messages, making arrangements and talking about the routine, but always from a point where she was dictating how things should go, how our household should be run, what
That
time I should
control.
put. Oh, total,
Yeah.
total control. Yeah. Uh, Suggesting what time I should put the kids to bed, what time I should wake them up. And I didn't know her as a person. So in the beginning, I thought maybe she was just being nice and, talking mom to mom. But then I realized that in her emails to my partner, the story was different. She was telling a narrative. And her emails were like essays, they were really long and time consuming because you have to address like all the points. And it was very difficult for us to be reading that and being like, we are not like this, we are not like that, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. That's not things went. So we realized that the child was taking things back home, but in her own way, sharing with the mom, and then the mom was twitching and changing the story. We were being portrayed as abusive, as neglectful parents who were not listening to the child. My opinion, I believe she was instructed to write those emails as evidence.
Probably.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I thought like that because I wasn't responding to her accusations and false allegations. Me and my partner, we would just be like, don't waste time with that. But when I thought, like, no, wait a minute, she's telling something to someone, she's building a narrative to someone, we have to defend ourselves. We have to counter argument. We have to prove that we are not that person. We have to, get back and say, like, look, this is wrong. So I started responding to the emails and addressing each single point, which was very time consuming and energetically speaking was awful. Because towards the end of the day, I was wasting so much time, like trying to justify myself and my actions in my own house to someone who wasn't present, who didn't see anything, who doesn't know anything, and was just making false allegations. So, yeah, in my interactions with her later on, she started to display that controlling behavior towards me as well. So before it was more like towards my partner, and then later on she started using that same tactic with me. But she would be nice with me in person when I was doing pickups and drop-offs, but behind my back she would talk about me to the child, or she would send nasty emails to my partner about me. So that's when I realized, like, this person has some sort of personality disorder. There is something going on because, she was passive aggressive. She was manipulative. She didn't respect any boundaries that we set. She didn't respect our days with the child. She tried to make arrangements on our days. She tried to change the child's diet. So she said, oh, now she's gluten-free, dairy-free. When we asked about the doctor's prescriptions and recommendations and stuff, they were never produced. We asked the child if she's been to the doctor. She said, no, I haven't. It's just my mom thinks that I am intolerant. So, and then we were told recently that as soon as we stopped contact, the diet went back to normal.
Okay, yeah.
And that's one thing as well. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say she was trying to make it as difficult as possible.
Difficult as well. That's the
Mm.
impression that I had. That was the reading that I
Mm.
had from the
Mhm.
situation. And we adapted, Sinta. I mean,
Mm.
to me, I love cooking, no problem. I adapted. There was no problem. But when you realize that the person is not uh, doing this for the child, is just making this
Mm.
to create problem, that's sad. And the
Yeah.
child would tell me like, oh, my mom let me eat this and this bread with wheat. And I would be
Mm.
like, oh, so you can eat this bread now? She said, no, it was, well, the word she would say like, oh, this was just a one-off. You know, so the
Mm.
mom could make exceptions, but if
Mm.
I made an exception, I would be neglecting, I would be
Yeah.
abusing.
Yeah. Mm.
So, you know, our hands were tied. We couldn't do anything that was outside of what mom said.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, our life just became very difficult,
Mm.
very, very difficult. The child was 6 when she started displaying some sort of struggles with her emotions. She struggled with our instructions. She struggled with our parental roles. So I would tell her like, oh, it's bath time. I'm not going to bath now. So whereas before we had no problem, everything was fine, she would listen and do, then she started displaying that, oh, I'm not going to follow your instructions. You're like, in a way, like you're not my mom to tell me that I have to
Yeah.
go to bath. Yeah.
Mm.
But when her dad would ask her to go to bath, she was like, I am not going to bath. She would be angry with him.
Mm.
So they would have like a little argument, and you would see a
Mm.
6-year-old wouldn't talk to dad like that,
Mm. Yeah.
screaming for no reason, bumping, shutting the door, like using force. So
Mm.
we were discussing between us, like, what's going on? We didn't know that was all like coming from the other household.
Mm.
We just thought maybe she was struggling emotionally with something, like with me, like a new person in her life. I was pregnant. So, you know, that there were lots of changes going on, and we attributed that just to those changes.
Mm.
Um, but things became more clear when she started displaying what they call, I think, is I had to write that down because I forget, the reject, refusal, and resist behavior.
Mhm. Mhm.
So one day I went to pick her up. She was a bit older. I think she was about 7. And she refused to get in the car.
Yeah. Mm.
And I was devastated because as far as I was concerned, she liked me and I liked her.
Yeah.
And she held on the door like that with both hands. I'm not going. I'm not going. I want to
Sure.
stay with I want to stay with mommy. Mommy was outside watching everything. And I said, would you like to come and help? Because I cannot force her to get in the car. And then the mom was like, oh, sweetie, I have to go to work. You have to be with your dad. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. I know you can't call me. I know you can. But Emma will
Yeah.
take care of you, right, Emma? And I was like, what is that supposed to be? What's that about? The mom
Mm.
was trying to show
That's
like a great
textbook
affection as if we were,
alienation.
yeah. And I
That's
felt like
textbook alienation. Mm.
we were like the punishment house,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, you have to go because mommy needs to work and you'll be
Yeah.
back. I was like,
I-
that's when I realized how the manipulation, the emotional manipulation was happening in that household, and you know, and how psychologically damaged she was being weaponized against us, and she was
Mm.
seeing us as a punishment house.
Mm.
That's how
Mm.
I felt, and that's how I saw the situation. Like, oh, you have to go there. Mom is gonna go to work, and I know you don't want it. I know you don't like it, but do it for
Yeah.
mommy, and you'll
Sure.
come back.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was really that stuck in my head for a long time because it was
Mm.
traumatizing for her and for me. In the end,
Yes.
she got in the car after like half an hour of talk, and well, and she got in the car because the mom promised to give her a phone to play with when she was going to be going back. So
Yeah.
that was the, and it's sad to realize that you have to bargain, or the mother
Mm.
felt like she had to bargain with the child, like, I will give you something in exchange. I will, and that's what she
Yeah.
was doing with this child.
Mm.
Uh, praising her for giving information back. She was asking me questions that a child would never ask. She
Mm.
came to us a few times, and I was making notes in a journal about everything that was remarkable that was happening with the child.
Mm.
And some of the things that she said to me was, "Oh, Emma, why do you hate my mom?" I
Oh
never
my.
said that to her.
Yeah.
Um, She said, Mom said she wants to be your friend and to go for a walk with you, but you don't want to be her friend. Why?
Hmm.
Um, my mom and my dad can be together. It's okay if they fight because my nanny and my grandpa fight all the time.
Mm.
Uh, my mom said I don't have to be there if I don't want to. She can take me to her work with her.
Mm. Yeah.
I have to call my mom. And I asked her why. She said, oh, because she's alone.
Sure. Yeah. Mm.
Uh, and then one that I really thought it was really mean, that she said, Dad, my mom said that you are a thief
Mm.
because you stole her necklace.
Yeah.
So when I look back, that's not a 6, 7-year-old child talking,
Mm-mm.
you
No,
know,
it's not age
that
appropriate at all. Yeah.
it's not. And there is a voice in the alienated child, and
Mm.
that's the alienating parent.
Yeah.
And I'm so sad that the justice system doesn't recognize that,
Mm.
because they say
Mm.
that if the child display reject, refuse behavior, that even if there's no clear explanation, it's because the child doesn't get along with that parent, or maybe they don't have affinity. But I truly believe that if there is a reject, refuse behavior, there is a voice in their head saying
Yeah.
nasty things, and that is constructed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, our
It's not
child
the kind
became.
of thing that a child would come up by themselves.
I don't think so, Sinta. I really don't
No,
think so.
I
And I think they should probe a bit more the relationship of both parents with that child.
agree.
They
Mm-hmm.
should do more observations. They should talk to schools. The schools are a
Mm.
really good place to clarify things. Teachers are incredibly good because they can pick on the child's behaviors, thoughts, and emotions, and they can report to authorities.
Mm.
Uh, and I really think that the justice system should look into that, into
Mm.
talking to schools, talking to teachers, getting the views of other people that are involved in the child's life, not just from mom's side,
Yeah,
but from
I agree. Mm.
mom and dad's side, and make an overview of everything. And if
Mm.
they could,
Mhm.
if they only could watch that child for a weekend with dad and with mom, they
Mm.
could then clarify what's going on.
Yeah.
um, it was really sad for us to see our child being anxious, becoming stressed. She was coming to
Mhm.
our house to just report things back to her mom.
Mm.
She was distressed. She struggled with her emotions. She was being praised with gifts when on the way back to her mom's. And we couldn't win. That
Mm.
was the whole situation. The mom cut the attachment that she had with us. It was a safe one. It was a caring, loving one, and she cut that off from us. I was building an attachment with her,
Mm.
and that was cut off as well. Uh, and I think that's the problem with trying to classify uh, child alienation, parental alienation as abuse,
Mm.
because people can easily mask the emotional and psychological manipulation under the excuse of oh, it's my child, I prioritize them, I'm just safeguarding them, I'm caring about them, or the other parent was abusive towards me and he's going to be abusive with my child. So that's the difficulty of
Yeah.
classifying parental alienation as abuse. And I think all the sides lose
Mm.
by not classifying that as an abuse, because people feel like they can keep doing that type of thing.
Mm.
We
You
stopped
get away with
playing.
it.
They do without
Mm.
knowing sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah,
There's a lot of work that still needs to be done about alienation. Our systems, our legal systems, are simply not even close to being equipped to handle it. The professionals that work with children in separation, the mental health professionals, the social workers, are not informed. They don't know how to recognize these things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, parental alienation, as I said, is a new thing for me. I came across the terminology when I started this new relationship. Uh, I think I found my um, how can I say it? My reason to be here in this world. I
Mm-hmm.
think I want to help people that are going through this. I truly believe that I can spread awareness about the
Mm-hmm.
topic. And that's what I want to do. I am now getting involved with a charity called Parental Alienation Awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to learn more about the subject. I want to fight against it. I want parental alienation to be stopped. I want the justice system to realize how targeted parents or alienated parents suffer. And I want people to know the damage that children
Yeah.
suffer and how this impacts their life. It impacted my life, and I was
Mm-hmm.
being I became an alienator because of my previous
Mm-hmm.
experience. I was just repeating the pattern.
Mm.
And I think we're going to keep doing that until
Yes.
we go to the root of the problem.
Mm.
So, on that note, saying all I want to do, I want to go back a little bit to say that we stopped playing the mother's game. She is a narcissist, and we realized that we're never gonna win with her,
Mm.
and that the child was suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So the child will be traumatized by her dad stop seeing her, and she will be traumatized if we tried contact again.
Mm.
That was the reality of it. There's
Mm.
no side that's gonna win, So we
Yes.
decided to stop seeing her. It hurts.
Mm.
It's
Very difficult.
it's painful because we know she's there and that we could maybe knock on the door and see her,
Mm.
but we know the situation is gonna escalate. Uh, but it's dangerous to deal with this type of people because when she realized that we were not responding anymore, we were not playing the games anymore, she attacked in other ways. So
Mm.
I work in a school. She knows that. She knows what I do. She knows I'm passionate about kids. And one day, I started receiving lots of emails from pornographic websites, from
Oh
rehab
no.
retreats.
Mm.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was scared. In the
Yeah.
same way that my ex threatened me to kill me, I had this sick person
Yeah.
creating profiles in pornographic
Yo.
website using my personal information. And I started receiving many emails with
Mm-hmm.
people naked asking to do things. So again, I turned to my partner, to my current partner, and I said, look, I'm scared.
Mm.
It can cause great damage in my career.
Yeah.
And he again supported me. He said, would you like to go to the police? I said, yes. I printed all her emails. There was a pile like this thick
Yeah. Yeah.
of false allegations, false accusations, controlling behavior, passive aggressive texts. I printed texts from my phone as well, and I took everything to the police. There was little that they could do to help. But, you know, it was reported, and that was important to me. The police force can't enforce the law sometimes. They can't do things. They can't investigate things further. But it was there, recorded, reported. We confronted her about those things. My partner did, and she accused me of doing the same thing.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, it's really difficult to deal with narcissists. It's difficult to deal with obsessed alienators. They always have to win. They always have to be right. They do whatever it takes them to damage people. So that was my partner's limit, and that was my limit as well. I said to him, if that's the price that we're going to be paying to have the child with us, and not a relaxed child, not a happy child, a child that is coming to spy, to report, to be stressed, to be anxious, to be angry, then if that's the price, I don't want to pay that price. I want her to have a childhood that is lighter, a childhood that is protected. I don't want her to go through what I went through. I don't want her to remember the parents arguing. I don't want her to have me as the person who took her dad away, because that was not true. I met him years after the separation. So, you know, it really hurts because I love her, and I still love her, and I will love her forever. Sorry.
Please don't apologize. I understand. It's very painful.
So we promised to ourselves that we wouldn't see her again, not until she was old enough to come and look for us. And if she wants to know the truth, we are happy to share with her and show her how much we love her. But we broke our promise, and we tried to see her in 2023. We knocked on the door Christmas Eve, and so she was so happy to see her dad. She jumped on him, and to protect ourselves, I was recording, voice recording the interaction, because I was scared of what her mom could do. And she jumped on her dad, and she gave him a massive hug. She didn't let him go. She was just like really hugging him. And she said, Dad, why you don't let me come to your house anymore?
Sure.
And he said, sweetie, anytime you want to come to my house, just ask your mom. I want to see my dad. And to see how cruel a mother is to lie to her child, saying that the dad doesn't want her in the house. That's really, really mean. It's really abusive. After 2 days that we saw her, we gave her a lovely family album with all the good memories that we had with her. That was her Christmas present. After 2 days, we got a very nasty email saying that if we barged on the door again, she would call the police. So then we understood that we couldn't even try to see her anymore, because there would be always false allegations, false accusations, and she would fabricate things against us. The school kept in touch with us. I don't know if the mom knows, but they invited us for a meeting to clarify things, because the child said things that the school was concerned about, and the school wanted to understand the separation and what was happening in order to be able to deal with the child from that point, because they heard mom's side, and they know how mom is a toxic person. And we clarified our side of the story. We told them exactly what was happening from our perspective, from our side. They made up their own mind. They deal with the child according to what they believe. They heard both sides. We don't take part. We don't tell them anything else other than what they ask us. And they kept in touch with us. They sent photos of her so we can see how she's growing up. And that's good that one entity could keep us in the loop of that child growing up. And if they're happy to keep in touch with us, I believe that they could see our side.
Yeah.
And that they
I
could
think
see
that's
how much we
wonderful.
suffered. Yeah.
That's also quite rare because the schools or the people aren't aware of alienation and properly informed of how to handle it. So I think you are very fortunate to have the school do that.
Yeah, I think so. They're good professionals, good teachers. They are impartial. They're neutral. They don't say like, "Oh, you are right." Oh, yes, that they're partial. They just asked questions. We told them. We presented some things that we had in hand. That was it. So yes, that was my story based on this obsessed alienator, and it's the most difficult one. Is the one that hurts me the most because I revisit my childhood constantly because I can see myself in her. And I really hope in my prayers, I always hope that she won't feel rejected, that she won't feel abandoned. And I wrote a story based on her story with us, and I want her to read it in the future. The book was written for her, and I want her to know that her dad loves her more than anything. And he was always there for her, but he was prevented from seeing her, you know. And anytime she wants to reach out, anytime she wants to talk to us, we'll be here for her, waiting for her. And, you know, we'll take from there.
Yeah. That's the best you can do. What an incredible story. It's so sad. And what is so hurtful about it is that there are so many, many families in the world with similar stories. It's unbelievable how common this sort of alienation is. Not to take away from your experience, but it just amplifies it for me. It's such a huge problem, and you're almost helpless against it because it doesn't matter what you do, at the end of the day, the child has to absorb whatever the behavior of the alienator is, and it's an untenable situation for a child to be in. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I was reading the latest guidance produced by the Family Council, where they say that parental alienation is a rare thing. And I'm just thinking, in which world are they living?
Yeah.
It's more common than we think. I
Yeah.
think you see alienation in a spectrum, like I just presented it for you. Like I didn't know what parental alienation was, and I did it for a while. My mom did more alienation than I did, and then I'm dealing with this obsessed alienator. So I think you can see it from a spectrum, and it's difficult to pinpoint as an abuse because of that. But you can't say that it's a rare
Yeah.
occurrence. You
No,
can't
it's
say it's
definitely not
non-existent.
rare. Yeah.
No. And I would be very happy when we get to a point, I will be very happy when we get to a point where experienced people who suffered alienation or who were alienators get there and start helping in those cases. And because they have, I think, they have the baggage with them. They know
Yeah.
what it looks like. They know what the damage that's caused, you know. And the decision makers who don't know what that is and say that it's rare, that's not right. That's not true. And you can't make a guidance based on something
No.
that you don't understand.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of work still to be done, and that's why I'm very grateful for this conversation. Emma, thank you so much for sharing your story and for trusting us with personal details. I'm very grateful for that. And I know that the wisdom that you've gained from your own experience is going to be valuable to anybody who watches this video. So I really, really appreciate your contribution. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope that the video can get out there, and that maybe if I help one person, that would be very good, and I'll be very, very pleased.
Yes,
Sinta,
I
thank you
agree with
so
you.
much for giving me the space to talk about my experience. And yeah, it was lovely to meet you and to speak to you.
It's always an honor. Yeah, it's always an honor to hear the stories. And like I said in the beginning, these are conversations that I'll keep on having for as long as it's
Yeah,
necessary. Yeah.
yes. And that's so important. You're doing a great job doing this type of conversation. Thank you for having this channel. It's really, really good.
Thank you.